Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. All right, so in this reading, I think I'm picking up on a masculine energy. Of course, take it or leave it with the gender thing. Sometimes energies can be flipped, so take it, of course, however it's resonating for your situation. But this guy is kind of a player, possibly known as a player, somebody who juggles multiple women. But in addition to that, I feel like he's a liar and a manipulator. He would probably tell you that he's got game, or his friends would probably tell you that he's got game. He does play a lot of games, but he compartmentalizes. He says one thing to one woman, another thing to another woman. He tries to keep his involvement with one woman a secret from his involvement with another woman. And I think probably this man has more than two on the go at most any given time. And I think that there is some kind of situation that's being highlighted here, and it is showing up as a karmic situation, and everybody that's bound up in this karmic situation is there to learn their own karmic lessons. There's something that they need to straighten out in their vision, but I feel like their vision is attached to something internal. And that makes total sense because the world is mental, as a lot of spiritualists will say, meaning that the world is crazy. I'm kidding, I just add that in. But that the world is like psychological. And so everything that we see, sense, it goes through our own psychology. And it can, just like if you wear lenses, like if you wear sunglasses or if you wear like glasses, that's a lens that everything is kind of passing through. It can change what it is that we see, and that's what everybody involved in this karmic situation is having to understand, is that they're seeing this situation the way they want to see this situation, or the way their psyche is telling them that they need to see this situation in order to feel safe, in order to preserve their internal self-image, in order to avoid some kind of internal tower moment, some kind of catastrophe of grappling with the way that they truly feel, maybe about themselves or about a certain trait that they have, and this situation is meant to bring it out. And that's another thing that's important, because if this situation triggers something in you about like lack or self-esteem, it's not that you are inherently that in every situation. It's that you kind of drew this to you, like you manifested these particular people, this particular situation that kind of puts you in that state that you are trying to suppress. Like if it is feelings of inadequacy, then it's like you are drawn into this particular situation because it can bring out those feelings of inadequacy so that you can be triggered by it, feel it, process it, deal with it. But every situation that you get in, you're not going to feel that inadequate. You're not going to be compared in a way that's unfavorable. You know what I'm saying? So life does present us opportunities to deal with that. And it's not always about just manifesting like ease and comfort and luxury and the things that it is that we want. This happens on a deep psychological level. A lot of that is very subconscious. And I feel like that's a higher level spiritual lesson that you are learning. That's something you can take with you into every situation that you're going to deal with in this lifetime and in other lifetimes. It's just having that perspective of just like, let's get this over with. Let's get to the bottom of this. Look from that higher perspective. What is this trying to highlight? What is this trying to show me? But then there is something specific in this particular karmic situation. And I feel that here we've got a masculine that was doing this, right? So going back to this particular situation, and he was lying to, I want to say like his karmic soulmates, because I think that he may well like these people on one level or another, but he's twisting and twirling and confusing people about what his true feelings and his true intentions actually are. And really, this is just a smokescreen. And I feel like if everybody in this situation is able to put their own psychological puzzle together as to what they're seeing in this masculine, which might be a soulmate energy, which might be, oh my gosh, he's so dreamy. Oh my gosh, he's so great. And they're stepping back and realizing that maybe they feel that way because of a sense of inadequacy, because he may well be like out of their league in a certain way. And so his attention just gets them all flustered, and they can't kind of step back and say, well, this guy is why is that? It's weird that he's giving me attention, because they'd have to they drew themselves to him in order to confront a sense of inadequacy. So instead of facing that head on, they're just wrapped up in the fantasy, and it's in order to try to outrun pain. But that's another spiritual lesson, is that trying to outrun pain, it's kind of that devil energy. It's reverse devil energy. It's putting off some kind of sudden internal tower moment that actually would bring some kind of healing crisis. And once you do that here with this masculine, however it is that you're involved with him, whatever of his fantasy that he dangled in front of you for you to believe, for you to get wrapped into his karmic situation and his elaborate dance of self-defense, whatever that is, then you can step back and actually see him clearly. And it actually is that he's very scared. This is coward kind of behavior. And it's smoke and mirrors, and all of it is like deflection because he's trying to hide who and what he really is, mostly from himself, but also from these other people because all of us want to get what we want in life. We want to be happy. And I feel like this man has certain things that he wants in life. And I do actually feel like this revolves around a soulmate. And that's where I think this karmic situation crops up for this masculine and everybody else that he's kind of involved. Because instead of talking to the soulmate directly and being vulnerable and putting it on the line of how he truly feels about her, he doesn't want to do that. He wants to maintain his position of power because he feels so weak internally. And he feels like a rejection from her is actually going to break him because he likes her so freaking much. And she stands out to him so freaking much. And she really is just special. So all of this is an internal freak out, basically. It's an internal, chaotic, self-defense, reactionary mess. And so he wants her and he's trying to go after her because he does feel like she's the missing piece or that she's his happiness and that she's what he wants. He just is doing everything but honoring and respecting her, treating her kindly. And I think he's actually, this to me seems like a guy that sleeps with his friends. And I'm talking about his legitimate friends. Like he does like these people, but it's on like a friend level and he's using them and disrespecting them. And this may have some level because he's pitched up into some kind of it's like the internal equivalent of like a high-pitched noise like in his brain. And so it's incredibly distracting and it's all he can focus on, but he's also just like trying to run away from it into the arms of these other people in order to try to seem like he is powerful, that he's confident, that he has the control. And he can have the control. He seeks out people to bring into this third-party situation to throw at his soulmate that he knows he has more control over. And that's how he's kind of like picking them, people who will trust them. I also feel like this man, when he spins a yarn, there's something ironic about it. Like he's saying something here about this divine feminine that's actually true for him or it's actually true for his karmics. And I think it might be some kind of combination of both, or he says one thing to one kind of the people that he's trying to involve in a third party situation, And it's about this divine feminine. So he could be saying that she's like naive or like she just loves him so much and she doesn't see who he actually is, that he's just using her or whatever. And he says that to the third parties because he can actually see their self-esteem issue. He can actually see that they compare themselves to this divine feminine, right? That's as one example. So he knows if he's like, oh my gosh, she's so stupid. Like she's just so naive and sweet. And she thinks that I actually love and care about her and that I'm actually attracted to her. Can you believe that she thinks that I'm actually attracted to her? Meanwhile, she is very attractive and she's all he thinks about. And he's only involving with these other people who are actually playing the role of the gullible naive, right? So he's projecting their quality. It's not, in that instance, he's not projecting his quality. He's projecting the third person that he's trying to rope in. He's projecting that quality out onto the divine feminine. And he's doing it for that like third party person because he knows that's what either they're already doing it or that's what they're most susceptible to. And I don't think this is necessarily, for a lot of these people, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily like, all of this seems very emotionally reactive. Like, I don't know that it's very cerebrally strategic. It could be for some of these people, especially if this divine feminine has really kicked this guy to the curb and he really has to pull a rabbit out of his hat to get back into her good graces, then yeah, it might be a lot more strategic where he is very strategically thinking about what kind of person is going to get her attention, what kind of lie, what kind of narrative, But he does in his heart of hearts feel like they're supposed to be together. But because this man has not built up his internal self-esteem, because that's the actual answer, is because he needs to step into a more divine masculine role when it comes to her especially. And she's his motivation to do that. He's just running in every which way. He needs to calm. He needs to center. He needs to be alone. He needs to let his energy settle. And I think he's also, this emotional reactivity, I think he feels quite a bit of emotional pain whenever she turns her back on him or moves away from him or he doesn't feel like he has control over her. And the reason he wants to have control over her is because he feels like she has control over him. She's not trying to have control over him. She doesn't know that he feels this way. And that's all by his own design. Because I feel like he is trying to make her think that she's not important and that she's, that he can just find whatever they have anywhere else, or he can just go get it anywhere else, when he actually wants her. And he actually wants the holistic package that she brings and that she means to him and that they actually create together. There's this special sweet kind of umami alchemy that the two of them bring. She satisfies him on a lot of levels, and she is not just a whole to him. She's not. And I kind of think he's pulling in people who are just that. He doesn't really want them. He doesn't hardly look at them. And he's doing that because for some reason, and it's this emotional volatility, it's this emotional reactivity, he thinks that that is the path to getting not just this divine feminine, but getting her on his terms and getting her in everything that he wants, which is to feel like he has control over the situation because he feels so vulnerable to her. And like I said, he feels that she has control over him, but she doesn't want control over him. And I think maybe that's even like a part of it. She wants a Venus dance with him. She wants balance. She wants to be respected and to respect him in return. And if he acts right, then she will act right in return. And I think this is something this masculine is supposed to uncover in this situation, is that the problem is not that she didn't care for him. I actually think that despite her caring for him, she had to move away from him because the man doesn't know how to behave. And also he's harming people. He's harming other people. And this is kind of the difference in divine feminine energy versus like that karmic feminine energy. Is divine feminine does not actually think that's cute. She doesn't think it's okay for him to go out and use other feminine energies. She finds that to be repulsive, even when these karmics are in competition with her and thinking like, because that's what and by the way, that's what these karmics are getting off on. So I've talked about this in the past, the difference in the chemistry, where there's genuine chemistry between two soulmates. That's the nature of that soulmate energy, right? But these karmics here, the thing that everybody's getting off on here is like the sneaky, first of all. So they're not actually relating to each other's bodies, each other's traits and qualities. It's the sneaky. It's, we're not supposed to be doing this. It's, I've never grown up and I'm forever 12 and I'm hiding this from my mommy. Like, it's that kind of weird shit. And it's also I'm so sorry I just did that in your ear. It's also that I think for the karmics, they get off on believing the lie that this divine feminine is in some way inferior, that she is like chasing after him, that she's just so gullible and naive, and that they really think that he doesn't actually care for her, when it's so obvious that all he thinks about is her. If they just step back and they actually see the situation for what it is, and that's everybody's lesson here, is not to be a part of their own capture in this fantasy, because you'd have to be to believe it. The truth is here to be seen, right? And the proof is in the pudding is what I'm saying, right? But they get off on that, on feeling like, this divine feminine, because they're intimidated by this divine feminine. And I feel like it's a calling to step up because they have a self-esteem issue that they're supposed to be dealing with, or feelings of inadequacy. That's not, or it doesn't have to be innate to any one of us. We can all feel inadequate, in different situations. Like I said, this is just a situation where she is second place because he wants this divine feminine. So this is a situation because all he wants is this divine feminine, and he's chaotically freaking out and trying to grab for anybody that'll let him grab him. It's set, that you see the setup right there. She's his number one already. So before any third parties are even like manifesting or drawing themselves in order to confront their own inadequacy, do you see how she's going to be in a second place, third place position? That's the nature of the situation that she or whoever these third parties are stepping into. And it is because the higher spiritual lesson here is to confront their culpability in their own psychological capture. And to really deal with those inner feelings of inadequacy so that you can feel confident in yourself and you can go draw yourself to the situations and the people who do actually value and love and appreciate you, and where you are your own number one and you don't have to confront that anymore because you've already confronted it. You know what I mean? So that's like what's going on. And like I said, so she's getting off basically on the sneaky factor, the fact that she feels this divine feminine, that she can believe the lie that this divine feminine is less than what she actually is because she's intimidated by her. And she gets off on feeling like she's been chosen, and all of it's a lie. So they all just get off on the lie here and the sneaky and the and being captors in their own situation. And he is so what they need in this situation, these two, because they might well have, like, this masculine is in some karmic energy, but he may have a soulmate connection to this feminine. And if that is the case, he needs to learn how to be independent. He needs to because there's extreme codependency, because he doesn't feel like he can stand on his own. And that's the actual issue. That's the actual problem. And as a part of his little dance where he's trying to, again, hide what he really is, which is scared. He's a scared little kid on the inside and he doesn't know what to do. And so he's reaching for like these floaties. And I always get this image of like, I grew up on a lake and my little cousin, when she was learning how, well, she's technically my niece, but you know, it's a weird situation. But she just grabbed onto me and I didn't have any, she was learning how to swim without a life jacket and she just latched onto me and I was like, oh God, like, you know, just trying to stay afloat. That's what this masculine is doing to these other, these karmics that he's involving, whether they're men or whether they're women or whether they're masculine or feminine in their energy signature. That is what he's doing, all in lieu of standing on his own 2 feet and just having the courage to put himself out there and to build the life that he actually wants. And nobody here knows what he actually wants. And he thought that was an advantageous position because he feels so tender in it. He feels so vulnerable in it. Because he feels if she says no or if she finds him to be inadequate, that's just going to kill him. And I don't think that she's going to. I think she wants to build a relationship between the two of them. So it's kind of a big risk, but it's a big reward here. And so he needs to learn how to be independent, find his self-esteem, not involve everybody that he claims to care about in his own internal dramas. I think he also, part of it is with them. I think, especially if these are like female friends or something, it's like, why can't he just like say to them, like, I really like this girl and I'm freaking out and I don't know how to approach her in the right way, you know? Although some of these people are karmics as well, because there's quite a few people over here and some of them are going to be karmic and some of them are going to lead him astray. So I feel like he just maybe needs some therapy or maybe even his guy friends. Well, I don't know. I don't know where he should go. Jesus, maybe somewhere where he can just sort himself out and figure out how to step to her as a man is what I'm hearing, as a real man. Because this is the kind of guy that's like on some fresh and fit bullshit that tries to make this coping mechanism, because that's what it is, and treating everybody like a prop in his nasty ego game. He tries to make that seem manly and cool when it's actually just the strongest expression of weakness that you could possibly ever have. And he knows that. So here you've got somebody that is expressing player traits that really just wants one person. And they know who that person is, I think. And that's what scares them, is how much they like this person. And maybe they didn't expect that. Maybe they were told that it's their masculine nature to just want to roam around and you know, maybe they do have that pull as well, but his pull towards his soulmate energy is much stronger. And it's just tipping him out of balance because he's got to learn how to be a counterweight to that, to be his own best friend, to have his own back and say, you know, if she I'm going to have the courage to ask her out. I'm going to have the courage to ask clarifying questions. You know, I'm going to have my own back in regards of this. And again, maybe he's got to confront, that's where they overlap. Like the karmics and him overlap is he's got to confront his own inadequacy. Yeah. So that's why they're a match, these karmic energies. They're karmically, and that's also why he's driving his divine feminine away. And I think that's what he needs to see is that, because he might hate her or think like that she is a certain way. And that's another lie that he could have told. It's not that she's like naive or that she just wants to mess with him. Like, because she's just so hopelessly in love with him, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be that lie. It could be that she's cold and she's a bitch and she's manipulative because she walked away from him, or, you know, that she was just trying to play with him. She was just trying to mess with his heart, making her into this like grand Machiavellian puppet master when really that's what he was doing. And it's coming from a place of weakness, but she has inherent strength. So these people are projecting out their own weakness onto this divine feminine. But this divine feminine, they can see her inner strength. So with her, they paint upon her this position of strength. It's her strength, but they pervert it to make her malevolent or something. When these people are actually the ones that have been in some malevolent energy. This reminds me of people who will tune into a tarot reading and really just feed their fantasy with it instead of actually like trying to figure out what role they're actually playing so that they can actually deal with the reality of the situation. Because the tarot, just like anything that these people could use to sort themselves out, it's just a tool. And a tool is only as good as the hands that it's in and the intention behind that, you know, to build or to sabotage, which is why you will just spin your wheels unless you are really getting to the heart of you, the heart of the matter. What is your intention here? Any corruption in your heart space, any corruption in your mind where you are, where you have an agenda, even if it's an internal agenda, to where you are, you have motive, not to actually acknowledge the truth in this situation, which could be to avoid that inner tower moment, or to avoid confronting the feelings of inadequacy. That's this karmic masculine that's a karmic to a lot of people here, because he's in some karmic energy, but I think actually has some kind of soulmate connection here that he wants to pursue, but he's just not doing it in the right way. And he's got to acknowledge his own accountability here. But yeah, that's what it is. This masculine and all of these feminines that have allowed themselves to be utilized as his pawn in this, because I feel like spirit is always helping us try to learn. And I do feel this feminine internally knew. She knew that he wasn't pursuing her, like when she wanted him to pursue her of his own like free will. She knew that there was something odd. She knew that he was not that he only started pursuing her when this other woman got in the picture. She just didn't want to see that it was because he was weak and he was trying to use her to bait this divine feminine's attention, and to try to maybe knock this divine feminine self-esteem, to pull her down to his level, and to try to get her, he's trying to put her in his position so that he feels like he has control and that he has the reins over the situation. That's the kind of relationship he sees. And it's not a divine relationship. And so his soulmate is incompatible with that level of relationship that he is trying to offer her, or rather not offer her, but trick her into in order to bind her with cords where he's mistreating her, gaslighting her, lying to her, treating her badly, and telling her that it's because she's unimportant, when in fact she's the most important. And he just doesn't know how to treat her well and nicely. And he's scared that if she knew how valuable she was to him in particular, but he sees her value in the world. He thinks that any man would be crazy to not want to be with her, He sees that, and instead of just telling her and reflecting that back to her, which would build their relationship, and it would also reveal who she really is, because if she is a karmic, then it would, and she goes and cheats on him because he's told her nice things about herself, that reveals who she actually is. But he won't do that dance with her because he feels too sensitive. He feels too vulnerable to her energies. And I think everybody here is unpacking and seeing the situation for exactly what it is. And all of the turmoil and all of the confusion is going on around this masculine that is just reaching around and grabbing as many floaties, as many those little, the water wings, as many water wings as he can in the form of human beings. He's the one that's disrespecting. And these third parties are the one that are disrespecting this divine feminine. That's what they're all getting off on here. And it's hard to look at that because I don't think these people are just naturally bad people, but they have behaved that way. And that's why it's hard for them to admit that. It's hard for them to clear up their own corruption, which I feel like is what they're being asked to do in this situation. And they're being asked to look at the shadow that they put into this divine feminine, which is a fear that if you try to self-actualize, and if you try to become the best person, if you treat people well, because this divine feminine had her hand outstretched is what I'm seeing. She's in some Venus energy with everybody involved in this. Hi, I'd like to be your friend. Hi, I would like to start a relationship with you on normal, healthy, sane grounds. And that got her mistreated, which has put in some fear and some trauma in her, probably fear of relationships. And that's really a shame because that's where she shines. That's where she shines. And I actually think it's this divine feminine that is the soulmate, that is the divine feminine to everyone involved in this situation. They've all gathered around her light. They've all gathered around her for warmth, clarity, and illumination. And I just heard Jesha. Their disrespect of her their belittling of her energy has really held up a very strong mirror that is very clarifying. And for that, they need to clear up their corruption. And there's also Anurata energy here because that warm sun energy and being hidden in the time of the Kali Yuga, it's very lighthouse on a hill because this person's inner light never like truly dimmed. Like they just are what they are. And so this person can, Anurata gets drawn into abusive dynamics and then always pulls themselves out and builds up this immense internal strength. So I think this person, this divine feminine, actually had her hand outstretched. She offered healthy relationship, friendship, and otherwise to everybody involved in this situation, and everybody spit in her face and treated her poorly. And she pulled herself up out of that. She has probably a deep fear of connecting and a deep fear of relationships. So she's keeping herself protected in some way, and that will need to be rectified. And it might not need to be rectified with people who have harmed her in the past because there may be no trust here. But I do feel she's supposed to break this cycle of mistreatment. She's supposed to exit this and move towards possibly a twin flame here or some kind of higher soulmate connection here where she is protected. It feels like there's a simpleness to it. It's just simple love. That's all she's ever wanted is what I'm getting. And I think people are intimidated by her because they think if she wanted to, she could be a gold digger. If she wanted to, she could sleep her way to the top. If she wanted to, she could be an absolute terror. The level of bullshit and fuckery that these people have levied at this divine feminine's door, if she was really the bad one in this situation, she could really do some damage. She could really do some damage, and she'd win too. She would win. You wouldn't have gotten the sense that you got one over on her and that you won, because if she was actually playing the game. You see what I'm saying? So she's meant to break this cycle, and it's leaving everybody in the rubble of their own creation, in the rubble of their own making, to where they have to sort out their own corruption. I keep hearing that. They have to sort out their own corruption. And I just heard, pick up your cross and follow me. So it's like, you got to take your responsibility here. You got to take your L, because that's the truth. And then you have to exit this dream. You have to exit this fantasy that you've built up around yourself and around what was going on here. And you have to be willing to see the truth of what you actually were, what you participated in, and why you believed it in the first place. That all needs to be dismantled, and then come back and join the land of the living, I just heard. And then come back and join the land of the living, where you have a real shot at happiness. Because there is no real shot at happiness. So long as it's not just this situation is active, so long as this tape is active, because you can just get sucked into another dynamic like that, or anything that you actually genuinely build in the light of day. This fantasy can come up and prey on your lack of self-esteem and suck you right back into another karmic cycle that looks very much like this one, and it'll have you breaking and damaging the things that you actually want to build in your life. So, and I think the one thing that would surprise people is that this man does not want to be a player. I think he behaves like that, but it is a place of internal freak out. It's not because he just wants to get out here and get so much, no. I mean, maybe as a distraction though. In his heart of hearts, his truest, deepest want is this divine feminine. He wants this healthy relationship. He wants the alchemy between them, and he almost wants a guarantee is what he wants. He wants it to be stable. He wants her. And it could be that he wants to also be an asshole. So maybe for some of you, he's being called to mature and he's being called to level up. So that also, I actually think that's probably true. That ambivalence, that being pulled in two different directions, but he tried to do both. He tried to apply his, I'm a karmic bullshit fuckboy and that uses everybody ill, to his divine feminine. And I feel like she's actually in here to bring karmic justice to these other people, to have him realize that these are human beings. They're not just holes, And regardless of what he wants and the kind of lifestyle he wants, it's harming people. The way that he looks at people, the way he reduces people down from what God made them, which is a full human with hopes and dreams, to something that he just wants to wipe himself on and move away. It's gross. I just heard it's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. And some of these people maybe as an apology, but him being with his divine feminine and seeing women as people will probably help give that. But he didn't want to change is what I'm getting. He didn't want to change into I just heard a real boy. I want to be a real boy. That's a Pinocchio reference. So again, liars. Yeah. Liars and cheats is what I'm hearing. And being on Coney Island until you turn into a jackass was this type of time that this guy was on. But it's not because he's a cold, hard asshole. It's he actually does want this divine feminine. And it could be that he was trying to entangle her into some kind of lie and fantasy and drama so that she wouldn't move away from him, so that she would be around. So when he was ready to make that step, then he finally could. But all of that is a fantasy as well, because you are what you practice. So he's delusional is what I'm hearing. He doesn't really have his finger on the pulse of reality either. And it's because he puts himself at the center of things, and he's just not. So this man could be a narcissist for some of you, or he's in some kind of narcissistic energy. Although for some of you, it's impaired empathy, and this man may be more I'm not trying to diagnose anyone. This is just the way that my mind works. It's he could be more borderline, which borderlines are narcissists, but they are emotional and they do feel bad. Because whenever they feel triggered, usually by fear of abandonment, then they have what's called impaired empathy. So it blocks their empathy at the time when you kind of need it most. And then they use people like a narcissist would, kind of a thing. But they will come down and they will actually feel very bad and shameful about the way that they've treated people. And there's a lot more studies that like borderlines can actually change. They can actually heal. They have therapy, like regular therapy and stuff. So this man may be getting into therapy because he's realized he's the problem. And I think that's what he needed to realize. And he's trying to blunt himself, you know, and that could be like a drug thing, because I'm kind of getting like he wanted to blunt himself so that he didn't feel as much for this divine feminine or something, but he couldn't do that without blunting his empathy and his happiness and his, you know, whatever else. And that also created an additional problem is what I'm getting. It dug him further into the hole and not out. Like it wasn't digging him out of a problem. It dragged him further in to the cave of his depression or his darkest intentions, his worst intentions. It got him further into a pickle, you know? So anyways, that's what I have for you. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye.